Good evening. I'm Pamela A. Smith, Chief of Police of the Metropolitan Police Department. We are here tonight to provide an update of an officer-involved shooting that occurred this evening in the 3500 block of Georgia Avenue Northwest. I want to start off by saying any loss of life in our community is tragic, and I want to extend my condolences to the family of the individual who lost his life on today. We are in the very early initial stages of this investigation, and all of the information that I'm going to share with you tonight is very preliminary. At approximately 6:10 p.m., a vehicle was traveling southbound in the 3500 block of Georgia Avenue Northwest when the driver, now known to us as the suspect, drove into oncoming traffic and struck a marked MPD cruiser that was traveling northbound. After the collision, the suspect got out of his vehicle, produced a knife, and reached into the officer's cruiser through the open window and demanded the officer's service weapon while swinging the knife towards the officer. The officer retreated to the passenger seat of the cruiser and gave loud verbal commands for the suspect to get back. The suspect continued to swing the knife towards the officer, and the officer discharged his service weapon. The officer immediately radioed for assistance and exited the passenger side of the vehicle to check on the suspect. While checking on the suspect's condition, he began requesting for DC Fire and EMS. The suspect got up, picked up the knife, and started walking toward the officer. This is a photo of the knife that the individual used tonight. The officer gave the suspect additional commands to drop the knife. The suspect refused to drop the knife and entered another police cruiser that was further in the block. Officers called for additional units and requested a shield while giving loud commands to the suspect to get out of the cruiser. After multiple commands, the suspect gets out of the cruiser while still armed with the knife. The suspect then approaches a vehicle occupied by a woman in the parking lot of the laundromat. He opened the driver's door of the vehicle while still armed with the knife in his hand and attempted to carjack the vehicle. At this time, one of our officers discharged their service weapon at the suspect, striking him. Officers immediately began providing first aid while providing care until DC Fire and EMS arrived on scene. Despite all life-saving measures, the suspect was pronounced on scene. Agents from our Internal Affairs Division are on the scene conducting the investigation in conjunction with detectives from our Investigative Services Bureau. The case will be independently reviewed, as they always are, for these types of incidents by the United States Attorney's Office. This is yet another reminder of the daily dangers that our officers face protecting the residents and visitors of our city. Thankfully, none of the officers were injured, nor was the occupant of the vehicle injured. The two officers who discharged their service weapons have been placed on administrative leave per departmental policy. At this time, I'll take any questions you may have. Yes, sir.
Chief, do you have any insight into whether this was connected to the incident earlier today near the Georgia Avenue Metro Station?
It was not connected at all. This is a totally separate incident.
Was anyone from the Department of Behavioral Health or Crisis Intervention called to the scene at any point before the shots were fired?
And I think that's still under investigation as to what other resources may have been requested at that time. As I stated, you know, the individual gets out of the car. He's really enraged and actually makes comments to the officer about hitting his car during that collision, and it just kind of escalated from there.
Chief, is there any time you can give a timeline as to how fast this happened? It sounds like it was
very quick. I can tell you it's very quick, but it's still, when we bring all of the video footage and the body-worn camera together, we'll be able to get a better timeline as to when, we know when it occurred, but to the approximate time period for how long it took for him to walk back to the car, how long it took for him to get out of the police-marked car, how long it took for him to walk over to get to the vehicle that the woman was seated in. So we'll be able to have a better timeline once we complete the investigation.
minutes, not an hour.
No, not hours. Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
There were a lot of details, so forgive me if you want to. Any injuries to officers or that other woman who was involved in this, or not really involved in it?
Well, I believe she was involved in it. I mean, to know that someone has a knife in his or her hand and approaches her vehicle while she's seated in the car, I mean, yeah, that she was definitely involved. And there were no injuries to her, thankfully, and no injuries to our officers.
We'll take 2 more.
Was the suspect who was shot, was he pronounced at the scene or brought to a hospital?
He was pronounced at the scene.
And just, I know these two incidents were unrelated, but can you speak to the community here, whether they live here or go out to eat and shop here? I mean, I can imagine it would be distressing to see such large crime scenes just a block or two away.
Yeah, and not just distressing for them, but what we do know, I mean, for our community, but also it's challenging for us when we know that these are individuals from the earlier shooting whom we believe had some type of interaction with one another because there was an exchange of gunfire. And then we come to this incident, which is totally unrelated, but an individual who possibly, we don't know his state of mind or whether there was whether his mind was altered or not, but we do know that something was going on. And clearly, I want to say that the community should feel okay. I mean, we were able to, in the very first incident, make an arrest of one individual, and in this incident, unfortunately, based on the circumstances, this individual, and I say it's unfortunate whenever there's a loss of life in any situation, it's very tragic.
Chief, to your understanding, the suspect vehicle, before it collided with the cruiser, that strip of Georgia was blocked off because of the first.
That is correct. That is correct.
So, I'm sorry.
It's part of the investigation. I know where you're going because we did have, we had the area blocked off. There was a flow of traffic traveling northbound and southbound in that particular area. And what I do know is, like I stated before, the individual was traveling southbound. Our marked cruiser was traveling northbound. And what it appears as though he intentionally hit the police vehicle. That is what I observed on the video at this point.
Chief, one more. As it pertains to the helicopter that was flying around, was that related to the first incident? Or I know you mentioned you made an arrest in the first incident.
So anytime we have, incidents where there are shootings and our Falcon our team is available, we oftentimes get our Falcon up. Number one, to look for any suspect vehicles that may be outstanding. And so you will see that from time to time whenever there's any type of criminal activity afoot, we'll get our Falcon up just to make sure that we can get good visibility of what's happening on the ground.
And there was an arrest in the first incident. I apologize, I'm coming in late to this, but the one at Quebec, there was an arrest, I think you did.
Was it the Quebec one? The one on 14th and Oak, there was an arrest there.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
Do we have an update on that, the victim's injuries?
He is not just a victim, but he's also a suspect
Okay.
in the very first one.
14th and
14th and Oak, that is correct.
Thank you, Chief.
You good?
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Yes, there's a lot happening today.
It is a lot happening today, but we want to make sure you have the right information because we know our community has the right information, and we want to make sure that we have the right information. The 14th and Oak was the first incident where there was a discharge, exchange of firearms between two individuals. One suspect was struck. That individual is also a suspect in that particular exchange of gunfire. The next incident was the one that I think Assistant Chief Ramey Cow briefed out on earlier tonight, and then this one is the second officer-involved shooting that I'm briefing out on.
Okay, so for the first officer-involved shooting, I know there were 2 suspects that was a lookout. It's still
That is correct, and that is still outstanding.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
All right, copy. Thanks.